anybody thought of creating an exclusively Igbo community in Ghana, it's a problem. It would have been the same if anybody had thought of creating an exclusively Indian community in Ghana or an exclusively Chinese community in Ghana. I mean, it doesn't make sense. In 2025, we cannot be building new apartheid communities. These are new apartheid communities. You understand? So I condemn it in the strongest possible terms.
On Guide for Them, you are welcome back. Please listen to this man, Mr. Kwasi Pratt Jr., a Ghanaian socialist, who is saying integration into a society refers to the process by which individuals or groups becomes accepted and incorporated into a new social environment, often involving adopting to the existing cultural, language, and social structure. He also said this involves learning the norms of a country, the new country they're in, values and customs of the new society they are, and interacting with the members of their new society. Listen to his great words. He does not accept the Igbo king in Ghana.
Now, one, any community, anybody, they can be Igbos, they can be whatever. If they go into another community and decide to create an enclave for themselves, what are the principles involved? First, it is clear that they want to live by themselves and not fully integrate into the community that they have gone into. This will seriously suggest clannishness. Emphasis on ethnicity, or what some people call tribalism, and so on. It is negative.
It's negative, yeah.
It is negative. These are the practices which lead to nepotic behavior. You understand? We speak the same language, we have the same culture, and therefore we ought to help each other against others who do not speak our language and others who do not have our culture and so on. This is the problem. You understand? It's a huge problem. And especially for those of us who believe that ultimately we ought to build Pan-African unity. This madness, absolute madness of creating clannish societies, of creating societies, communities which are based on language identity and so on, is clearly unacceptable. And it does not matter whether it is Igbos or Fantis or Nzemas or whatever. The inability to move out of our ethnic enclaves into the broader community and relate with people as human beings rather than kinsmen and so on is a huge problem. And it's not just a problem for Ghana, it's a problem for everywhere in the world. And we should have a problem with that if Irish come into Ghana and say, we want to create an Irish colony in Ghana. We should have a problem with it. I have a problem with a situation where today, in so-called liberated South Africa, they are white-only enclaves. It's a problem. It's the same thing here. So we should condemn this in the strongest possible terms because it does not make for unity and for the development of common purpose across cultural and ethnic lines. And in today's world, it's a very reckless, foolish, and unacceptable move. That is my concern. You see, when issues crop up, people milk it for all kinds of purposes. Now, if you go on social media, there appears to be a competition between NDC and NPP about who is responsible for this. So NPP elements have taken photographs of NDC top-weights who have been seen in some social gatherings with this self-proclaimed Igbo king. And NDC elements have also gone to take photographs of NPP elements who have taken photographs with this self-proclaimed Igbo king. So, is that the issue? That's not the issue. You understand? So even within Ghana, the situation in which we have people, ethnic groups of other regions, migrating to other regions and forming enclaves and so on, must be condemned. Yeah. You know, I am completely disgusted, you know, with provisions of on our constitution which seem to institutionalize this attempt to see everything from a tribal and ethnic perspective. I'm worried about it. What do I care? If tomorrow Ghana has a government which is composed 50% by Nzemas and is improving access to education, roads are being constructed, healthcare, access to healthcare is improved, you know, people's living standards are raised, you know, there's no discrimination against anybody on the basis of ethnicity and so on. What is my problem? And indeed, these forms of representation are meaningless. Masa, you are a Dagumba, ally. When you became Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, what special thing did Dagumbas get which others did not get under your ministerial direction? You were there to serve Ghana. You were there to serve Ghana. You were there to serve Evers, to serve Fantis, to serve Gas, to serve Nzumas, to serve Dagatis, and so on. But the insistence that a Dagoma must necessarily be present in government is foolish. The insistence that a Fanti must necessarily be present in government is foolish. Because bottom line, and when you go to a cabinet meeting, you are taking decisions. You are taking decisions which will be in the best interest of the NDC. Why? If you go to an NPP cabinet meeting, you find an Ever there, you find a Fanti there, you find a Fafra there, you find an Nzima there, you find an Achim there. When they go to sit in the NPP, NPP cabinet meeting, do you think that they are worried about Nzima and so on and so forth? They are thinking about how to win the next election. But when they come out of the cabinet meeting and they want to get our votes and so on, they divide us on the basis of our ethnicity. You know, I think this nonsense has to stop. And unfortunately for me, it does not matter when this idea came up. The fact that the idea came up needs to be condemned. You understand? The fact that anybody thought of creating an exclusively Igbo community in Ghana is a problem. It would have been the same if anybody had thought of creating an exclusively Indian community in Ghana or an exclusively Chinese community in Ghana. I mean, it doesn't make sense. In 2025, we cannot be building new apartheid communities. These are new apartheid communities. You understand? So I condemn it in the strongest possible terms, and it should not be allowed. We should not encourage it. It is not in the interest of the world for us to begin to build our societies on the principles of apartheid.